All right, I'm going to do a video on the summary of my year of 2016. It was a great year, and in some sense, I'd like to say that every year is the best year of life, but I just want to make a quick summary, just for posterity's sake, of my 2016 year. It all started on January 1st, which was a great day, and praise Jesus, I got a new computer and an iPhone that day, and so I'm actually making the recording with this iPhone, or excuse me, with this computer, and we got an iPhone as well, or perhaps I got that iPhone a few days later, but start off with the good Apple products that have served me well, and it's been a great joy to have them. I finished working with the federal magistrate judge in Waco, Texas, Jeffrey Mansky's office, which was an absolute wonderful experience, and I really liked it, and I really learned a lot. I was driving up to Austin driving up to Waco and back to Austin almost every day. Sometimes I spent the night in Waco or went up to Fort Worth, or through Dallas up to Fort Worth. So I was very much on Interstate 35, driving up that way. So the year before, I had taken a due diligence class on due diligence on financial matters, where I became due diligence certified. But this year, I just decided to do pro bono work. I worked primarily with civil rights actions, Section 1983 of the U.S. Code, and it was a great experience. It was very interesting also to see prison litigation going through the Waco Federal Magistrate Court for habeas corpus petitions, and that was just absolutely lovely. I really love pro bono work. I think it's one of the best things that people can do. It really motivates me. I think it's one of the main things as lawyers and as professionals, that we can really serve the community. And that's one thing that I absolutely loved about law school, is that we have tools to help the community, and I always believed in giving back. But more on pro bono later. Later coming on, classes started. That semester was the last semester of law school. I remember seeing people post, today is my last day of law school, the first last day of law school. And actually today is Monday, January 9th, 2017, and I saw people from the year below me saying, I just walked into law school for my first day of law school. So that's kind of funny. It's also a good memory. But classes started. I took secured transactions with Professor Henning, that chaired conferences on the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, Article 9 and Article 2. So he's a big, I believe he was primarily focusing on sales and leases, so Article 2. And I had learned a lot. I really liked it. It was almost like having Carl Llewellyn teach us secure transactions. This guy knew the code inside and out. Professor Henning was awesome. But I was also taking a class called State and Local Trade Barriers. And that was a crossover from last semester, fall of 2015. This being, of course, the spring of 2016 that I'm describing now. That was at the Bush School of Government, based out of College Station, but we telecommunicated with our class. But I made extra efforts, specifically this semester. I'd also visited College Station in the past, to be at the Bush School of Government for several classes. It was a Friday class, and I really enjoyed it, and I think learned quite a bit. And it also took me on adventures aside from College Station. Then I also took payment systems. I audited that class with Professor Newman, and that's based off Article 7. I really liked it. Really, honestly, I wanted to learn payment systems, negotiable instruments. I really learned a lot in that class, but I also wanted to be with friends who were taking it as well. So I combined my two interests of wanting to be with good friends that I made in law school and taking that class. I should also mention, for the State and Local Trade Barriers class, it was taught by Professor Gerald Mumpower from the Bush School of Government, and Professor Henning, and Dean Andrew Morris, which I also took another class with him as well this semester, Offshore Business Transactions. And that was the class that took us to the Cayman Islands. But more on that later. And in early February, so classes started, and in early February, I went to Mexico in the Guanajuato region for a class trip, where we worked with maquiladores and transporting facilities in Grupo SSC for studying the transactions between Mexico and the United States. We focused a lot on the Buy America Act, specifically because I was writing on the Buy American Act, but we were also focusing on harmonizing trade routes between Mexico and the United States. I really learned that a lot in that class, and it brought a lot of what I'd been learning in law school and even undergrad put together. And right after that trip, it was the first day, the day after the Mexico trip, or I believe it was the day after we got back from the Mexico trip. I went to go speak to Professor William Burns IV about programs, and specifically Dean Morris had mentioned to me that the Amsterdam program might be a good program. And I remember walking into his office and saying, I'm interested in an LLM program. And he said, are you interested in going to Amsterdam? I remember it so well. And here I am from Amsterdam talking about that. But anyway, I spoke to Professor Burns and we started a great relationship. I started being his research assistant, and things just bounced off from there, and it was a good thing in January. So February 14th, I actually had a Valentine's Day, and I told my professors, I believe the week before and the week after for a few days, I had a date with every law review in the United States. And what I meant by that is on February 14th, which was a Sunday, I submitted my Hegelian dialectical, perhaps it was my Platonic interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, which has been published later on, and I'll get to that as well, as published in December by Notre Dame Journal of Legislation. I submitted it. Unfortunately, I didn't get responses until this basically early summer in May. At least for Texas, is early summer. We have a long summer. So I submitted it, and I had a date with every law review in the country, I'd like to say. Of course, it wasn't everyone, but it's a nice thing to say. And after that, classes continued, of course, but in March, I took a trip to the Cayman Islands for my offshore finance class. We had a few classes marching up to that, and it was just absolutely amazing. I really loved it. It was a great trip. I learned absolutely so much about offshore finance, and I sincerely say that it's not an understatement at all, or excuse me, an overstatement or a hyperbole at all, but it really changed my life, and it was a good experience to learn about taxation, mortgage-backed securities, structured finance. Absolutely amazing. I mean, cubed, squared transactions. It was great. I really loved it, and it was a nice place to be. I have photos with stingrays, and I sincerely hope to go back to the Cayman Islands and work there. But after the Cayman Islands, that was about mid-March because it was our spring break. April 8th, I had my Aggie Ring, and I had my Aggie Ring dunk, and I'm going to post this video on YouTube, so it can be available on the internet. But it was a great day. My mom filmed the entire day of me getting the ring, and it was very nice and family-oriented day. I'm very proud to be an Aggie. I love Aggie traditions. I'm sincerely a proud Aggie, and I love being an Aggie. I don't know. I have to admit I don't wear the ring every day, but gig 'em. I'm a proud Aggie. I'm loyal to the cause. I sincerely love Texas A&M, and I'm honored to be part of something great, because at Texas A&M you really feel like you're part of something bigger. And I mean, it's a great feeling. It's like going to church. I mean, not exactly, of course, but I'm not trying to be blasphemous or anything. But I mean, you go there and you feel like you're part of something bigger. You're part of a community. At Texas A&M, you're part of a community, and you feel like you're part of something bigger and greater. And that's how I felt at Texas A&M Law. That's how I felt Andrew Morris and all the professors made us feel. It's a great place to be. But continuing on, I had basically after the ring day, it was time for finals. I secured transactions, preparing for the bar. I should have mentioned with Professor McGrath. I was also payment systems, state and local trade barriers. I also took a guardianship practicum, which got me to go into the Tarrant County courthouse, which I absolutely love. It's a beautiful courthouse, and I love Fort Worth and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My dad's family is from Texas, and I really feel Texas is home to me because it's a great state. But I mean, in some sense, I grew up with Walker, Texas Ranger, and it might be cliche, but it's also cool in a way. I mean, we all, mostly all of us loved Chuck Norris, but that's the courthouse that all of Chuck Norris was. It was Walker, Texas Ranger, and it was the Fort Worth courthouse, and all the scenes from Walker, Texas Ranger. And I actually have an anecdote. The last movie I saw in the United States prior to coming to Amsterdam was Fast and the Furious. But the last show I watched, and it was the night before I left, so it was actually the last thing I watched, was the last it was like a series of episodes of Walker Texas Ranger, where it kind of has flashbacks to the past for Walker's ancestor, that being Chuck Norris. And of course, it's revealed that he's going to have a daughter or a child, and he knows everything's okay at the hospital in the modern era. And you have the flashback as well. But I love Walker Texas Ranger. It's a great show. I mean, it's kind of, perhaps you might say the fighting scenes are silly, but you got to be proud to be a Texan, and that's a great thing about that. But I took my finals. I presented the state and local trade barriers to NASCO that we were working for, essentially, with the Bush School of Government, and we presented it to the Bush School of Government, and then we presented it to NASCO. So we presented it to the Bush School of Government in College Station, Texas, then we presented it to NASCO in Fort Worth, Texas, at the Texas A&M University School of Law School. But on May 13th, which was incidentally Friday the 13th, I graduated law school. I had my friend Ryan Riddell from Harvard come down. He was a great guy. Came down with his wife, and we had a great time. We went to the stockyards. I gotta say, I love the stockyards. I mean, I love so much about Fort Worth. It's a great city, and spent some time in the stockyards. And but he also came over to law school graduation, and after the law school graduation, which was at the Omni Hotel, we went over to the Kimball Museum and took photos over there. And I was in my regalia as a graduate of Texas A&M University School of Law. And well, I guess you'd say at that point, I remember the dean saying, "Everyone here is a graduate of Texas A&M Law, assuming that you have passed all the requirements." So that was funny, but I did pass all the requirements. I received my JD. I also, but then after that, went into summer preparations, and I took 9 international tax preparatory classes for my LLM international tax law. Basically, I had a dilemma: is either take the bar or take the 9 classes, and I did both. They were online classes through the International Bureau of Fiscal Documentation, the IBFD, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot. But fast forward a little bit, Dad was living with me, and I was living with my dad for what am I saying? Yeah, sorry, it's late. I'm recording this it's now 11:51 p.m. on January 9th. I suspect it will go over, but I was living with my dad. But it was good. Was doing a lot of studying. I got to talk to him a lot. But on July 4th, 2016, I had a great weekend with friends. I really love my law school friends. They were great people. And then it was a good weekend. We had a good time, and it was good. James Nichols and Jonathan Heathman, we had a good time. We all the friends. It was magical. I mean, Travis Riefel. We just had a good time. I mean, good people, all of them. And I studied with John Kleinwacher a lot for the Texas bar exam. But on the Texas bar exam, which was July 27th through 29th, 2016. Took it. I was at the Howard Johnson Hotel, and I remember even one of the nights I stayed up all the way till midnight with John Kleinwacher studying. And you know what? They say don't stay till the last minute, but I'll tell you what, I stayed up till the last minute, and there was stuff that I studied in those last even 10 minutes with John Kleinwacher that was on the test the next day on the guardianship questions, and I got points because I stayed up that late. So you gotta make sure you get enough sleep, but it was cool. I mean, it's studying, and it really paid off. At least in that respect. But that's another story. I moved back to Austin, and after that, I believe on the bar might have been to the 26th or the 29th. I moved back to Austin. I believe on the last day of July, my mom and grandma came up, and we had a good time. Said goodbye to some friends. Kayla Harrington was a great friend. It took me out. It was just absolutely wonderful. I moved back to Austin. I donated my furniture when we were moving out to everyone, basically in the apartment complex who came. I didn't want to throw it away. And I visited friends while I was in Austin, including my dad, who actually came down to Austin, and that was really nice. Desiree my girlfriend came over, and I took her out, gave her a Texas experience. We went down to San Antonio for a weekend, did the river walk. We got her some cowboy boots, so that was fun. I really liked that. That was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, I'm proud to be a Texan, and like I said, I watched the movies. Fast and the Furious is a good movie. You know, it's just it's kind of cliche in a way, but I really liked it. And then I watched the Walker Texas Ranger, which is cliche, but in a good way, I'd say. And then I had we celebrated my birthday. My mom, family and friends, even Taylor and Willis and Jacob and Dylan. We watched. I actually went to, I believe, Joe's Crab Shack with my mom and grandma. It was a good time. I really liked Joe's Crab Shack. And it was Joe's Crab Shack off Lake Austin on the south side of the river. Man, it was beautiful. It was a little rainy, but Austin is a beautiful city, one of my favorite cities in the whole world. And I'm here in Amsterdam. My window's right here, and this is where I did New Year's right here. It's raining right now, but it's a beautiful city as well. But home is home, and Austin is home, and you can have multiple homes. I mean, right now Amsterdam is home. It's a beautiful city. But I flew out from Austin, Texas, and then connected in Houston, and on August 21st, and I arrived in Amsterdam on August 22nd. I had an alright flight, and I made it there, and it was nice. Got here. It was a magical day. I was very tired, but made it through. I had my birthday August 23rd, 2016. In Amsterdam. That's where I met my ISN/ESN group. Excuse me. Just toured the city, toured the place, and it was beautiful. And I had a good time, and I learned a lot about the city and where I was going. Made some friends, which I think will be lifelong friends. Tom and Brody, which we ended up having dinners with. But then classes started September. We had a short day in August, so I guess technically the class started in August. September, just classes at European Union tax law. I remember I met Dennis in March, right after I came back from the Cayman Islands, with Professor Burns, and at the time it was unclear whether I was going to be here. I had to take some prerequisites at the IBFD, those 9 prerequisites in addition to studying for the Texas bar exam, and Dennis Faber, I took his EU tax law with Professor Vattel, and then we had a whole host of professors for fundamentals of tax law. But Joanna Wheeler's been an angel and a savior, which I've been very thankful for. We had our final exams at the end of October. Well, I should say we had Carla Vandenberg's birthday, September 28th, which is a whole memory in itself. And Professor Vattel, perhaps I should say Justice Judge Vattel, was there as well. We had our final exams at the end of October. Of course, Carlo's birthday party was after September 28th, but we had our final exams in October. At the end of October, we had EU tax law and fundamentals of international tax law, and then we started. I also visited The Hague that weekend after with Matt, Tom, and Paul, and then we went to. And then on December 5th. 2016, I published my first article, Structure and Ideology of the U.S. Constitution. It's funny, I thought the Hegel article would be first because I finished that almost a year before, but anyway, it's been sort of a long conversation, and just been sort of technicalities have delayed things a little bit, but it will be published in 2017 with, I've already signed a contract with with Dayton Law Review. And then the second exams were in December 20th and 22nd with Otto Mars and Joanna's class, as well as Carlos and Andreas taught us, Perdowitz, Carlos Gutierrez, yeah. And then Desiree arrived on December 19th, and we spent Christmas. We went to London. And we spent Christmas in London. Well, he actually met my high school history professor, one of the great inspirations of my life, David Foster, in London, which is absolutely wonderful. I mean, he had been teaching me, I think, since 7th or 6th, or no, excuse me, not 6th grade, but 7th or 8th grade, all the way up to 12th grade, and I've been in contact with him every year since. And I mean, just I mean, and especially those years. I mean, he was teaching me almost every year. I took so many classes with him, and we met in Trafalgar Square, right next to, right in between the statue and the art gallery. I believe right on top of the Jellicoe Memorial, and that was interesting. And then Desiree and I had a Christmas service at St. Paul's. Let me write this down. I'm keeping a list also as well for posterity's sake. And at St. Paul's Cathedral, it was amazing. So the line was outside the building all the way. I mean, she and I walked around the entire building. But we got in. I think there must have been 1,000 people. They told us we weren't going to have nice seats, but we actually had wonderful. We were very close, beautiful music. And then we came back and we had the Rijksmuseum on December 30th. And I had never been there. It was my first time going there, and I was very happy that when I went there with Desiree, and we saw the whole museum. We actually spent the winter solstice, I believe, the 21st, which marks 3 years and a half together since we started on the summer solstice, June 21st, I believe, 2013. So that's magical in itself. Very celestially oriented, and then we had New Year's right here in this room, looking outside that window, and there were fireworks galore, and we had a bit of champagne, and it was beautiful. And but now I am here in 2017, looking forward to a great year and good things ahead. And it's now exactly 12 a.m. and I'll stop the video now. Thank you for your